When a fire grows from a spark to conflagration, wildfires transform into disasters spreading through our built environment, wreaking havoc on suburban landscapes. Adapting to this hazard requires finding ways to prevent the ignition of structures to break the chain of fire and, in turn, bend down the risk curve. That's where IBHS research comes in, showing us how fire propagates, informing us on the characteristics of embers and how they attack homes, and how fires use connective fuels to spread through communities. This research has identified vulnerabilities like decks, combustible fences, and vegetation within the first 5 feet surrounding a home, and has introduced ways to mitigate such risks. Wind-driven building-to-building fire spread, which examines the critical role of structure spacing. Insights from this initiative underscore how densely packed communities can facilitate conflagration once fires spread into areas where the wildland and urban environments meet. IBHS is continuing to expand its capabilities, now focusing on material performance and combustion thresholds, all in an effort to help communities become more resilient on the pathway to coexisting with wildfire.
Good afternoon and welcome to the IBHS Research Center. You are joining us directly in progress. My name is Wright. I get to help lead the IBHS organization. I'm sitting here along with Ann Cope, our chief engineer, and you're about to walk alongside us as we take on this next phase of wildfire research. This wind-driven spread of fire is something we've been looking at from sheds and outbuildings. Today we make a big leap towards accessory dwelling units. You'll hear us call it as ADUs in this space. And so what is being modeled for us today is that embers have reached this ADU, and this ADU has a window that's been compromised, and so embers have gotten inside. One of the first things we're going to be able to see is that ember is going to ignite a couch.
Yes. So this ADU has been outfitted with all of the regular furniture and things like that you would see. It's Christmas time inside this ADU, so there is a Christmas tree there in the house. And embers will absolutely come inside an open window or a vent into the attic space that would allow embers in. Something catches, and that small spot fire will then convectively light other things within the room.
And so as we look at this, we'll talk a bit about, we always want to see things that are realistic. In the past, we've looked at what might be out in a shed, but as the viewers can see, you're looking inside a 625 square foot home that should look like someone's home.
Absolutely. This has got all of the stuff in it. You're going to see the couch. You're going to see the tables. You're going to see, cushions, pillows, stuff on the couch, all of which burn, right? All of these things burn. So if you look closely at the footage, you can see small flame right now dancing on that couch. That's how small it is when these things start. That ember is really little, and that little spot fire is going to translate into something terrible. You can see, boom, it's gotten to the Christmas tree now. That small fire that was at the couch is now transitioned to the Christmas tree. Because it's in that corner, things are going to happen very quickly there. It's right there. It has nowhere else to go except but to consume all the fuel that's right there.
And so we're seeing the temperature inside the structure continue to move up.
Yes, we're talking about temperatures in excess of 900 degrees Fahrenheit. This is more than anything your conventional oven has thought about. Or we're talking about double what your oven is doing. In some of the camera shots, you can see things that look like igloo coolers. That actually has cold water in it to circulate for instruments that measure heat. We're measuring heat flux and we're measuring temperature. So we can take that information and we can say, okay, when a typical structure is burning, what's happening inside there? It's the same idea as the aircraft that fly in the middle of the hurricanes. what's going on in the eye of the storm. What are the temperatures? What is the heat flux? And then on the target building, when something like a typical ADU is burning, what is happening to the buildings that are just 10, 20, 30 feet away? We're measuring that here with this experiment.
So this experiment is looking at 30 feet of distance. So why 30 feet?
Well, so 30 feet in previous examples is somewhere where we thought, oh yeah, we can see through the science that at 30 feet, when you have a shed that's burning full of wooden cribs with a high load, at that distance, the impact to the target building where we're measuring heat flux is low. That seems to be a safe distance. We've also tried 10, not safe distance. At 20 feet, it really depends on what you are burning, what the impact is to the target structure. So some of the features that it has a 1 hour fire rated wall. The siding on the house is actually combustible, but the wall assembly, the other pieces that are part of the wall, create a 1 hour fire wall. It has, this particular one has open eave vents, very typical of California construction. And that's one thing that we're testing here to see how vulnerable those are. The building also has really good windows. They are dual pane and tempered glass. But the vulnerability might be the frame.
So we're enjoying this piece. There's been a reignition that has happened inside that living room. And we're watching something that happens. Once you can get it hot enough from that fire, we see the spillover happen.
Absolutely. So we have moved from spread not just the contents of the building, but now we've got the skeleton of the building itself is consuming. You can hear the difference. You can hear the crackling. You can hear that there are pieces of that structure, the roof, the walls that are being consumed.
You're watching the color of the smoke fundamentally change. And this is what's different. When we did some of the other tests, as we did with sheds and the like, we used primarily wood as the fuel. In this case, we have household appliances. So kitchen.
Right. The kitchen is going to have all the normal things in it. The cabinetry, the table, the flooring, all of those are normal pieces in there.
There's a washer, there's a dryer, there's a hot water heater, a whole series of things that can withstand a lot until they can't.
Until they can't, right. It is really just billowing out of the windows. That is wind-induced behavior. So when we have wildfire conditions, we often have significant wind speeds.
Right.
And as that wind is pushing the fire, you see it exiting the structure and extending those flames. So most of the things that we're looking at in terms of how do we adapt and mitigate against wildland fire impacts to our neighborhoods are it's not about the if, it's about the when things are happening. When embers come, how do we protect against them? One of the reasons why we're doing so many different variations of ADUs is that we're going to take all of those measurements and then apply that to the science of protecting communities, not just individual homes.
We thank you for joining us. This is a project we are doing in collaboration with CAL FIRE. They too are interested and have made investments in this research to understand how fire performs. IBHS has been partnering with CAL FIRE to get these pieces. This is a multi-phase, multi-year test series. Soon you'll be sifting through data.
Oh, there's a ton of data here, and we're going to capture that. It's going to tell us a lot about the next time we burn, and it's really going to tell us about the density and connected fuels between our structures in our neighborhoods.